Alright, my fellow Synchron enjoyers, welcome back to yet another video, and this time for another deck profile plus tournament recap, because I took Adventure Synchron to the Austrian Nationals, and it was my first real tournament post-ban list, so there's a lot to talk about actually, regarding the deck list of course, because there are some changes there, some changes that I would make for future events, because there are some things I want to talk about. And then for the ones who are interested in it, I will quickly go over the tournament experience as a whole and the matchups I had. Alright, so without further ado, let's start off with the deck profile. So for the Synchrons, I played my super standard lineup of 3 Jet, 1 Assault, 1 Wrath, double Stardust Synchron, triple Overtake, 1 Illumination, 1 Trail, and the Chunk Servant. So, you know, pretty standard. I'm not gonna change this anytime soon. I know 3 Jet might seem a bit excessive, but looking at the rest of the deck with the level 7 package and stuff, I think Jet Synchron is just the best Synchron to play in this version of the deck. Sure, you could run 2. Sometimes I side 1 outgoing second, but he also helps you, in my opinion, very well to play through hand traps, like if they interact with your Diabell Star, so you don't get access to the original Sinful Spoils. Just to follow the board state up with a normal summon of Jet Synchron can be quite powerful, so hard opening the Jet Synchron is pretty decent actually in this list. So. And then for the Adventure package, nothing changed there. Obviously, triple Enchantress, 1 Griffin, triple Rite, the Fateful, the Dracoback, and the Foolish Burial. Again, this just a super strong engine for this deck, and that's why I maxed it out. I side out the Foolish Burial from time to time, going second especially, and then off to the level 7 stuff. Triple Black Witch, triple Wanted, 1 Original, and triple Fenrir to round off the package. And last but not least, the rest of the non-engine. I decided to go with triple Tactics and 1 Called By, just so to play around or punish potential hand traps our opponent might throw at us. Probably gonna cut this down to 2, because I feel like hand traps are declining a bit in popularity. At least that was my experience during the tournament. But nonetheless, if you have to go second, it's super strong, and your only focus really is to resolve your combo going first, and that's usually enough. I played triple Forbidden Droplet and a double Evenly as the hard going second cards. Again, it doesn't really matter what you play for non-engine in this deck, because your goal is obviously to go first and combo off. So these cards can help you with that. And if you have to go second, you can fall back on these here. And yeah, it worked out pretty fine. All right, then let's have a look at the extra deck. So I played the 1 Crimson Dragon, the Spatter, the Crystal Clearwing, 1 Trishula, 1 Croc, then a Crystal Wing, Omega, Exo Synchro Stardust Dragon, and the Charge Warrior, 1 TG, 1 Jet Warrior, 1 Chunk Speeder, 1 Exo Synchron, and the Herald. So yeah, let's talk about the extra deck a bit. So during my previous videos where we talked about how to subsidize Baron in the list, I chose a Crystal Clearwing, and it's still a pretty good choice, I think. So for the most part, I think the extra deck was fine. The only thing that I didn't like, and what I was quite surprised about actually, was this guy here. So over the whole weekend, 9 rounds of Swiss in the main event, and the 4 rounds of the side event I played, I summoned this guy a total of 2 times, because I think it's not needed anymore. Like, I rarely find myself going into TG. There was a game I could have made TG where I played against Tenpai, and game 2 he shifted me. So I could have went for a TG line, but the issue is you can't rely on tuners coming back from the graveyard actually, so I think it becomes way worse, and also you cannot draw into the Diabell Star engine. So I decided to go for a board with this padded Crystal Wing and a double hand rip with Omega. So I would cut TG now and play a Chengying instead, because there were some games where I noticed that I was really missing that generic level 10 synchro that Baron was before. And obviously, you know, Baron was such a no-brainer to go into in simplified game states, or even at the start of the combo, because sometimes you have these weird hands where you open Diabell Star and Revolution Synchron. And if you run TG, there's nothing you can do with it. And, you know, if you have Chengying, then you can continue playing, or even, you know, like going second, if you want to access this generic level 10 to continue with board breaking. Also working pretty well with cards like Trishula, because you can trigger him when you banish something, or like Omega, which can make Omega kind of like a pseudo board breaker assistant kind of thing. You know what I mean? When you have Chengying and Omega, you can take a follow-up out of the hand and then trigger Chengying to get rid of some more follow-up. And it also would allow you to climb into Chengying when you do some croc plays, because without Baron we are missing a generic level 10 to go further. Because most of the time, you know, croc is just a stepping stone. But I made it against Voiceless Voice actually going second to get rid of the barrier and cut him up with more follow-up. But yeah, I think you get the point. Like, having that generic level 10 synchro, yeah, it just comes up. It just came up more often than Librarian, I felt like, because another thing that we are running into now that Baron is gone is that your TG line for the main combo is just not as good anymore, because we have the issue now that if we draw into the second Stardust Synchron that we usually want to send with Excel Synchron, we already committed to Librarian and Excel, and the board just becomes so much worse then. So every time I had main combo, I just went for the non-Librarian line with hard summoning Trishula that I showed in the last video. So yeah, I would cut a Librarian for Chengying, and for the rest of the extra deck I was pretty happy with it. I had a chat with another Synchron player during the tournament, so shoutouts to him. He ran a list pretty similar to mine, but he was running the Majestic Star Dragon, and I think that's pretty interesting, because it tributes itself for cost to omni-negate something and then wipe the board, which is super strong. But then you can actually go Assault Synchron Engrave to bring him back, to have a second omni-negate. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's definitely an option worth exploring. The only issue I see with him is he returns himself to the extra deck during end phase. So you actually have to keep a Crimson Dragon on board at the end of the combo to go into this guy during the opponent's turn. And that makes you weak to cards like Droplets or Imperm, or even the books. Because I noticed that the books, at least at the Austrian Nationals, was a pretty popular board breaker actually. When you look at the winners list, he also played 3 Book of Eclipse in the main deck, and I also played against a Tenpai player who ran a Book of Eclipse in the main deck. And I would have lost that game if I would have had to rely on Crimson Dragon, get out my Omni Negate, instead of just having the one Omni Negate already. But, you know, as you like. I can see this card being pretty strong because it makes Overtake, Synchro Overtake also better because it mentions Stardust Dragon actually. So you could extend your plays with Overtake by having a choice now. You can either summon Jet or the Stardust Dragon. So that's something to consider, I guess. You could do that. So yeah, I will for sure put in Chengying and maybe try out the Majestic Star Dragon in the future. But for now, you know, that's the list I played during the tournament. But I think that are some interesting changes that we could look into in the future. And then last but not least, the side deck. So I ran triple Dark Ruler, mostly for matchups like Voiceless Voice or even Snake Eye, or just, you know, like combo decks that build up huge boards. I decided to play 3 because against these kind of decks you really want to hard open the Dark Ruler and not rely on getting the Dark Ruler with the double thrust. You know, because if you're committing to breaking the board and they make thrust live and then you go thrust and they just negate it, I'd rather have a triple Dark Ruler going second than, I don't know, 1 or 2 Dark Ruler and 2 thrust. I also ran the third evenly. I Feather Duster, a Change of Heart. This was mainly for Snake Eyes or other decks that like put up an Appaloosa or something, because stealing it is quite strong actually, and you don't have to use the Appaloosa to like perform an extra deck summon or something, or use it as an extender, you know, because in the main combo you could just like take the Appaloosa and then start comboing and negate the stuff, and then later on where you would tribute something for the Stardust Dragon to revive, you can just tribute the Appaloosa then, use it that way, or you can send it to the grave for Diabellstar to summon or for Original Sinful Spoils. So you actually have quite a lot of possibilities to use stealing cards. I ran double Foolish Return for Branded, mainly to stop the Puppet Lock, or some other graveyard reliant decks. You could even side them in going first then, which I did sometimes. Triple Cosmic Cyclone, this is mainly for Floodgate heavy decks like Runic Stun or like other Runic variants to get rid of the Fountain and or Floodgates. And then as thrust targets going first, I played 1 Black Goat and 1 Karma Cannon. I ran these in the main deck previously, but I decided it's probably better to stick with more hard going second options for the main deck, because again, if you go first and you combo, it doesn't really matter what your back row is. And it's just not as great going second as Evenly and Talents is. So yeah, the Karma Cannon was decent against like shifter decks. Came up once, I think, if I remember correctly. And the Black Goat Laughs, I sided that one in a lot. But I will probably cut this card and maybe even the thrusts for some other options like D-Barrier, or I even thought about running the Gravity Collapse to outright stop an opponent's turn. The Karma Cannon's still pretty good. Maybe I put in another one of those just to go for the shifter matchups, because you know this card is pretty decent against Cash and Flunder. Alright, so with the deck profile out of the way, let's talk about the tournament experience. So first of all, I had a pretty fun time. It was my first national ever. I've never been to one before. I thought about going to German nationals in the past, but from where I live, it's a pretty long drive to go there, and then you have to take care of like accommodation and all that kinds of stuff. So Austrian Nationals is better for me because I only live an hour away from Salzburg, which means I can easily go by car day one, and if I fuck up completely, I just can call it a day and not drive back there on the next day if I don't want to play side events. The location was pretty good. It was the Congress Center. Yeah, no complaints there. Catering was decent, so everything you could ask for if you ask me. So yeah, the main event started at like 10 o'clock or shortly after 10. It was scheduled for 10. And round one, I had no opponent. Then round two, I played against PK. I won the die roll, and then a judge came up to us and we got deck checked. And they didn't return with our decks for like 15 minutes or something. But we got a time extension then, and I even got a warning because some of my sleeves were a bit too fucked up, and they demanded me to change the sleeves for the top 7 cards of my deck immediately, and sure I did. And then we started the match. Went first, comboed off. He didn't attempt to play through it. Game 2, he went first and comboed off. I tried to chew up the board, and I did manage to do partly, but on the crackback he OTK'd me. And game 3 I went first again, comboed off, and that was it. And then round 3 I played against Tenpai. Shoutouts to this guy. He made top 8 actually. So yeah, congrats. I won the die roll, I went first and I bricked. I just set a droplet and passed to him, and of course he had the Cosmic Cyclone to remove the droplet, and then OTK me with his only engine piece, which was the Hydra. And game 2 I went first again, and he shifted me, and I managed to set up 2 Monster Negates in the double hand rip, like I mentioned during the deck profile. But it wasn't enough. It was a bit of a back and forth then, but then he managed to OTK, so that was the first loss. Round 4 I played against Voiceless voice, so I won the die roll and went first, comboed off, despite him using Ash, Veiler and Imperm on my combo, but it was sufficient enough. Like, I got the 2 hand rips in, and that was it. Game 2 he went first, and I picked apart his board partially, and then it was a bit of a back and forth from there, but he got the upper hand in the end. And game 3 I sent him first. We had only 2 minutes after siding or something. Used Saphira effect to add, and then he normal Diviner, and then time was called. So that was round 4 was a draw. So round 5 I played against Tearlament. I won the die roll again, went first, comboed off, and I ripped 2 Mcedis and a Pearl Rhino out of his hand, so I knew what I was up against. And he tried to play through it, but quickly realized that there's no way. And so we went off to game 2. I sided in the 3rd evenly and triple Dark Ruler. He went first, doing a bit of typical Tearlament milling RNG plays, and was able to set up a decent board. I looked at my hand, it was Talents, Adventure stuff, and Dark Ruler, and I top decked an evenly, so I used Dark Ruler evenly to crack his whole board. And then I was just playing Adventure Control. Up until that point I top decked the Jet, and that was it. Then round 6 I played against a Tenpai. He won the die roll and sent me first. I bricked again, exactly like during the last Tenpai match. So I was setting up an Omega with Fenrir and Jet, and then I wanted to rip 1 card out of his hand, but he impermed the Omega. So it was left on the field and I couldn't special summon my second Fenrir. And then I just set 1 droplet, and again the Tenpai player had the back row removal, and then he OTK'd me with a normal summon of Hydra. Exactly the same situation as in round 3. He had the out for my only out for his only engine. So yeah, that's just how it was. So game 2, I went first. I comboed off, ripped his hand. And then game 3, he went first. He activated Heat Wave and was setting a bunch of back row, one of which was anti-spell. So if it hadn't been for the Heat Wave, I would have been able to play because I had Fenrir and a bunch of spells, and I could have outed the anti-spell with Fenrir probably and then continue playing main phase 2. But, you know, Heat Wave was too strong, and then he top decked Pydra, and yeah, there was just no way. He instantly OTK'd me then. I had the Black Goat actually there, and called the level 7 Tenpai Dragon, but he managed to get too many of the small ones out. So he could still OTK me nonetheless. So yeah, that was round 6. Round 7, the last round of day 1, I went up against Tellarknights. I won a die roll again, went first, comboed off, and he scooped it up. Game 2, he comboed off, and I tried to play through it, but then he flipped the D barrier. Game 3, I started again. He dropped Lancia so that I couldn't hand rip, but that wasn't a problem. I was just, instead of Trishula and Omega hand rip, I just made an additional Herald and a Croc to have more interruption, and that was enough. So I was going strong out of day 1, with top 64 still in reach. And then day 2 started with round 8. I played against Illusion Chimera. I won the die roll, went first, comboed off, and won. Game 2, he went first, comboed off, and he was setting up the barrier statue that only lets you special summon dark monsters. And then I started to play through the board. I negated the statue with Droplet, but he made a Guardian Chimera then to pop my token and the Fateful Adventure, and then I ran out of gas a bit too early. So that was game 2. And game 3, I went first again. Managed to combo off once more and win the match. So round 9 rolled around, and I played against Dogmatika Ritual. He won the die roll, went first. He was playing the Ken and Gen stuff and the tactics. So he started off strong with that engine and then went into Thrust, searching Nadir Servant and Talents to rip my hand. And my hand was super weird. It was like double jet, double right, and the Assault Synchron. So he got rid of the Assault Synchron. And then he summoned the level 12 Dogmatika Ritual, which lets me send 7 cards in total from hand and or extra deck to the graveyard. So I was taking out all the non-essentials from the extra deck that you need for your main combo line to send to the graveyard, and I ditched 1 Chet and 1 Right, so I was left with a 10 card extra deck and Chet and Right. He passed to me. He had like a Mirror Trade on board and the ritual, a lot of the ritual stuff, and I top decked Droplet and started to play through the board. And then when I climbed into Trishula with Charge Warrior, I top decked Talents and took his Mirror Jade. That was a crazy game. I outed his board almost completely, and he wasn't able to come back after that. So I won game 1, and game 2, he went first again. He was setting up similarly, and my hand was not that good. I started to play through it, and it was a bit of a back and forth, but at the end he managed to get the upper hand. And then game 3, I made the mistake to go first. I bricked. He didn't, and was able to get out the big ritual again. Did some plays and then attacked for 4,000 damage. After he got rid of my Diabell Star or whatever I was left with on the board. And yeah, he passed back to me. I top decked nothing, and it was only a minute left on the clock. So I tried to make a play, but then quickly time was called, and I lost that one. It felt pretty bad actually to lose like this, because I should have just taken the risk, sent him go first, and even if your speeder doesn't resolve, you still have like your adventure engine and Fenrir to pick the board apart and then at least sneak in some damage to win in time. But yeah, it is what it is. Shoutouts to my opponent in round 9. Congrats to the finish. He got place number 34, which is pretty strong, considering it was like an almost 400 player tournament. And that could have been me. It still haunts me to this day, actually. I should have just made him go first, but you know, sometimes it's like decisions like that cost you the top finish. So I learned from that mistake. Shoutouts to him again, and congrats for the finish. So with that loss, I made place 77, which yeah, I still think is not too shabby. Again, I could have been top 64, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, and for those of you guys who are still with me, at the start of day 2, I got approached by 2 friends who were in the tournament still as well, and asked me if I wanted to team up with them for a side event. It was a 3 versus 3 event, and because it started after the main event ended, and with all of us being out of reach for top 16, we decided to team up to play a 3v3 event. So that was super cool. Shoutouts to those guys and our team, which is, we named our team Team Pile, because we were all playing some kind of engine piles. So the first guy, the team captain, he is a guy I know for quite some time now. He was part of the group when I went to YCS Düsseldorf back in 2018. And he played a Plant Link, like with Rika, Sanavalon, a Therion engine, and the Ragnarika engine, the new one that just got released. The other guy is a guy that regularly plays at my nearest local game store, and he played a crazy sprite list with a sprite engine, a Melfi engine, a mutant engine, adventure, Horus, and triple Fenrir to round it off. Completely insane. And then it was me with Adventure Synchron, obviously. So we teamed up, and after round 9, I just grabbed a coffee, and then the side event started. So for round 1, we went up against a team consisting of players that I also happen to know, because they are based in another local game community near my area. And my opponent was playing Floo, and he won the die roll, went first, set up full Floo board. I wasn't able to push through. Game 2, I went first, comboed off and hand ripped him, and I negated his only play then. And game 3, he went first again, and he was setting up decently, and I tried to play through, but he feather stormed me, and then he had just too much advantage build up for me being able to get back into the game. So I lost that game. My teammate that played this wild sprite list, he managed to beat a stun player, and so it was decided between 2 team captains, which the opponent's team captain played Tearlament Paleozoic, and he wasn't really able to combo off because he got hand tripped twice. My team captain started playing or went to draw phase, drew a card, wanted to proceed to standby phase. The Paleo tier player activated Needlespark's Nest and actually milled the scatter shot to burn, and that was then the end of the game because time was called. So yeah, we lost that one in time. And then round 2, next team, and I played against Voiceless Voice. He went first. He was able to set up more or less the full Voiceless Voice board. I was able to push through and cut him off follow-up completely with the help of Trishula. Trishula is just insane going second. I would probably never cut Trishula, to be honest. And yeah, he wasn't able to come back, and game 2 was exactly the same. He was setting up a board again. I was able to push through once more, and yeah, was cutting him off of follow-up again. And then off to round 3. I played against Centurion. I won the die roll, went first, comboed him to death. Game 2, he was setting up full Centurion board. I tried to stop the Calamity lock with a droplet on the effect of Crimson Dragon, but he had the Solemn Judgment face down, so yeah, I scooped it up, and we went to game 3. I went first. I began to combo. He had an imperm, but I had too much gas. One imperm just isn't sufficient to stop the main combo, so I ripped his hand again, and we won that round as well. And then round 4, we went up against a team consisting of players that we all encountered during past regionals this season. Some pretty nice blokes, like my team captain. I think he was playing against Kashtira, and I played against Centurion. I played this guy at a regional at the end of March. I won the die roll. I went first and I comboed off and was able to win. And then game 2, he went first. He was setting up the Calamity lock, and during my standby phase, he flipped an anti-spell. I chained Cosmic to it and was hoping that he wouldn't negate it with the Centurion counter trap that he searched during his combo. And he didn't. And I was able to push through then, because my hand was like Fenrir and all spells. And so I was able to start playing. He tried to synchro summon into a Crimson Dragon, which he did. And then on Crimson Dragon effect, I chained Droplet to negate him. And from there on, I was able to combo off and win the game. And with it, the match. Our team captain, he also won his match against Kashtira, which secured us another win. So we went 3-1 during the side event, and yeah, that felt pretty good. Had a lot of fun, and then we went to the prize wall, and if you haven't noticed it by now, I got this beautiful playmat with the Shooting Majestic Stardust Dragon from the prize wall with the points that I earned in the side event. I could have get myself a Chimera mat or something which you could sell for a decent price, but I didn't want it to have a price to sell it later. I want a nice memory to take home with me, and yeah, this will be my playmat and probably the background for my future videos now. Alright, so that's about it for the video. Finally, I just want to add that I had a great time playing Austrian Nationals and at side event. I met a lot of nice people, had really fun games, and a great tournament experience overall. I was pretty happy with my performance as a player overall, excluding the last round of the main event, of course. And I was also pretty happy with how the deck functions, how it works, The only major change, like I said, would be adding the Chengying for the Synchro 10 option in favor of the TG. And with that being said, yeah, see you next time. And with that being said, see you in the next one.